Hey, what's up, everybody? Kendall here. Welcome back to the Wealthy Legacy Journey. Thanks for stopping in for this week's episode. I'm excited to bring you guys some cool content this week, and just kind of what's happening behind the scenes. And you don't get any more behind the scenes in real life, and so just to give everybody perspective, because this is as real, as it pretty much gets. Last night we had this major uh storm roll through, and luckily there was like no damage to anything, but our power went out for most of last night, and that's the high humidity. I'm trying to fix my hair, but it's causing it to go out. But anyways, um storm came through, power went out at like midnight, and I had kids in my bed. One of my kiddos was with me, and then Libby went, and because there wasn't enough room in our bed for everybody, and KB woke up our baby. She went to Liliana's room, or Liliana's bed, and slept in there. Liberty was the only one who didn't wake up last night, which was wonderful to have at least one out of five of us who didn't wake up. Um, but neither here nor there. Even with a very tiring night, I'm still chasing this down, because when you're chasing that goal, when you set that goal in your mind, you can't allow you know the obstacles of life to stop you in that pursuit. And there's going to be so many things in this journey they're going to try to stop you and make it seem like you shouldn't keep going forward. But you can't give in to that. So anyways, this week, another real kind of thing that has been a struggle for me is looking at vehicles. Actually, one of the I've already been like thinking, man, I'd love to, I miss my nice truck. I'd really love to. I've wanted for a long time to be able to like to get either like another nice truck, or maybe have you really thought about like a sports car, and not like brand new, but new to me, and for right now's pricing, probably somewhere in like the $30,000 ballpark. But you know, well, number one, since I'm on the Dave Ramsey, thing, and I'm that's one of my goals. I'm gonna stick to that. But that means I can't do it with debt. And you guys know how my breakdown works. So basically, from my first, $100,000 that we earn, excuse me, 10,000, or the first, until we have 100,000 in savings, 10% goes to tithe and 10% goes to fund. And so basically it means we have to earn $125,000, 10% going to tithe, 10% going to fund, which is like 12.5 each of those, and then it leaves $100,000 for savings. And then after that, and that's on active income. After that, well, that's investment income as well until we have that money in savings. But then after that, once we have the money in savings, then on the active income, the fund is 15%, and the uh, the investment's 35%. So basically, like, I was breaking it down, and I was like, okay, so basically, over and above my salary, I've got to make $200,000, whether it's active income or investment. If it was investment income, it'd be maybe a little bit less. But if it was active income, I have to make $200,000 over my salary to be able to get the money into savings, and get what I need for to be able to kind of hit that fun goal. And then she seems so far away, and that's been really hard this week. And so, one of my struggles is jumping the gun, and like I've been looking at, cars and trucks, and really thinking like, man, that'd be so cool. And the problem is like when I start looking, I start feeling bad about where I'm at in my journey, and I start feeling like I'm not far enough ahead, and I start playing that what if game with myself. Like, well, man, like what if I had, been where I'm at right now 1 year ago, 2 years ago, 5 years ago? Where would I be right now? Whereas instead, I should be like, what, if I can be dedicated to the course, to what I know works, where could I be in 1 year, 2 years, 3, 4, 5 years? And that's really my hope with recording these episodes, is for my kiddos and for anybody else who watches, is to see that not just theoretically, but I'm going to live out this journey over the next few years. And my hope is that, you'll be able to really see like, wow, he literally did what he said he was going to do from episode one. He walked out these steps. And that's the fruit that was created over X amount of time. So if I literally just do the same thing over the same amount of time, I will be able to get the same results. Um, and so that's kind of my hope for everything. But I'm still really struggling to be content. I'm really want to move faster. I want to have more success quicker. One of the things, or basically, it feels like what I'm doing right now, it just feels like I'm not going to get there at this rate. Like when I think about I have to earn, $200,000 over what I make on my normal salary to be able to just get to getting a car. And like at that point, we'd have like 100,000 in savings. And if that was all active income, we would have like 75,000 in investments, I suppose, at that point. So it'd be like we'd have like or no, excuse me, it would be I think it was actually 225. Maybe it was 225, 200, 225. We'd have somewhere like 150, we'd have like 50,000 in investments, $100,000 in savings. And but it just seems like wow, that's gonna take forever. And one of the important parts though about that is to realize, like, well, number one, Libby said something that was really good to me this week. She said, Kendall, just don't forget that when you build a wall, you build it one brick at a time. And so she said, just focus on laying your next brick. And I was like, okay, that's really good. Like, I just need to focus on laying my next brick. Now, I'm all about working smarter, not harder. So, how can I lay these bricks as efficiently as possible? How can I create a process or a system to lay these bricks in such a way that I can get the wall built faster, better, stronger, all at the same time? And so, like at first, it's going to be slow as I'm building the wall, but as I go, I'm going to be able to build it quicker and quicker, and then be able to hire a team to help me build the wall. And all of a sudden, we're going to be building it faster and better, and like all these things. But like we're just building, everybody's just building the wall one brick at a time. And so that was just like a really good, you know, thought that she had. Um, but yeah, so like one of the things that's been hard is like in the job that I'm working right now, I'm basically making the smallest commission I've ever made on anything. And when I first started, I thought basically I understood the way I understood it was that I was basically literally just taking phone calls, walking appointments every once in a while, and I was making my commission. I was like, okay, well, I'm doing less than I've ever done before, and I'm getting, for like work per deal, but then I'm also, making less. But I was like, it'll balance out. But it's proven to be a lot more. I've had to get, I'm having to do like document work, and I'm having to do, they have this software, and there's so many things to do in their software. It's kind of a complicated process to keep track of everything. And you're just working with people. Like when I came in, it was basically like you literally every single one of these deals in the pipeline, like they close is the way that it was kind of explained to me. And I was like, that's easy money. And it hasn't been that way. And that's totally okay. Like I've never been in, I thought that was just the craziest thing ever. And it's not really that crazy. It's working every single lead. I probably, I'm closing a pretty good rate. And I think, I don't know, over the last 2 weeks, I'm probably closing like 1 in 8, 1 in 10, which is about what I did in the land deals. And there was honestly a part of me that thought, what if, what if I just went and did the land deals with Aaron and Carson again? And the hard part is I don't feel ethically right about that model. It's totally legal, but I struggle to sleep at night with it. And at the end of the day, why do something, it doesn't really matter how much money you make, right? If you are struggling with it ethically, I think you got to find another way to make the money. um so anyways, so that's just my struggle on that front. And so this is, this aligns a lot more with my value systems, but it's less money. And so that's kind of a hard part, is like, do I do something that doesn't really align with my, not that, like, I think if you're like, I don't understand investing, so you're just going to shy away from investing. Like that's not, in my mind, your value system. And this, what I mean is like the way that you structure a deal. So in those deals, I would basically contract a deal from an owner with a very long option period, and then I would just turn around and list it on the MLS. And I always felt like, man, like basically I have no risk. And if this deal sells on the MLS, I make a huge chunk of money. If it doesn't, then I just back out of the contract. And they just wasted all this time. They thought they were going to get paid. And I really have like no control over the deal, whether it closes or not. Versus with, Casey, it's, I can go look this seller in the eye and confidently say, we're going to close on this deal. And I just feel a lot more ethically okay with that. It seems wrong, even though I know it's legal. Technically, it seems wrong to look a seller in the eye and go, yeah, I want to sign a contract with you to buy this, knowing that I have a contract in my hand that gives me 1,000,001 reasons to get out of the deal, and I'm just going to turn on list on the MLS. Like, I don't know, it seemed shady, and so I struggle with it. Not to say that those, like, I love Aaron and Carson, great guys. There's a really cool team that they've assembled. It's really cool, like, workflow process that they built. I just personally struggle with it. It's nothing against them. It's just something that I struggle with. Um, but it's hard whenever you do something, you're like, okay, well, I used to make, 50-50, and now I'm making 5%. And it's like, that's, for nearly the same amount of workload, because a lot of the extra stuff that I was doing with Aaron and Carson, I just passed off to the realtor or the escrow, that my title lady, who's awesome. Um, it just puts me in this spot where I'm like, wow, I'm making 10% of what I was before, from 50% to 5%. The deals are about the same size. So it's not like, oh, well, we're doing bigger deals now. The qualified leads are about the same. I have about the same close rate as I had before. And so that's been a struggle. So like if you're in a job right now that you're kind of struggling with, that you're just like, man, I don't see how this job like gets me to where I want to go, I completely understand where you're coming from, because I'm feeling that right now. And but in that, I've thought, really, what my problem is, what I'm struggling with right now is I'm trying to figure out, like, how do I increase my income? What I have to remember is there's 3 categories of income: active income, investment income, and passive income. And so with that being said, if I'm trying to increase my active income, that's basically getting a raise. So for me, that'd be like getting a bigger chunk out of the commissions, or maybe it could be like being more efficient, doing more deals, something along those lines. I got to be able to do more volume or make more per unit, or both. That's how I increase income on my active income. My invested income is, how can I set aside a pool of money and get creative with that money and grow that money. And so one of the things that I've been talking about the last few weeks is tax sales. And so I actually sat down with Nathan Mills this week, and I'm just going to look at it here on my other screen. But, I was looking through the tax sales, and one of the ones that I came across that looks really, like, potentially really good. And one of the things that I've learned over the last few years is how to evaluate, real estate. But it's not a super complicated thing. Like, you can pretty much just look in the general area and just go like, okay, is this deal overpriced or underpriced? And I want to tell you guys actually a note that I just learned off of a cool. Let me put this here on the notes so I don't forget to talk about it. It's a really cool game. Let me see. I want to put this so I don't forget. Stocks with real estate knowledge. So I played this really cool game, and I figured out, I realized, like, oh my gosh, like, when people do the stock market, for most people, like, they're doing the same thing with stocks. They just figured out how to evaluate the value of a stock, versus I've learned how to evaluate the value of a piece of real estate. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can teach myself. And I actually have a couple of books on stocks that I've never gone through. And so right now I'm 2 chapters into Good to Great by Jim Collins, and then we'll do that book report. And then after that, I've got a stock market book that I think I'm going to read next. So I'm excited about that. But anyways, back to the tax sale. There's this one where there was 4 properties that really intrigued me. Well, when you look at that, the minimum bid is $1,100. Now, I figured out what I would estimate or excuse me, no. So there was one here I included in the list I shouldn't have. So there's one. So the minimum that I would spend on 3 lots would be $950. My estimated resale value on those is $13,500. Now, my maximum bid comes out to 2250. So I could be somewhere between 950 and 2250 for $13,500 in real estate. Now, I mean, obviously 13,500 is quite a bit, and I might not get any of those three. But you got to think like, okay, what if let's just say worst case, I end up paying the 2250, but then I come out making $13,500. So my profit is $11,250, and my ROI on that is 500%. So, basically, if you have your 2,000, let's say I just bought it 2,250, 500% is just times five. So I literally 5 times my money. Plus, plus my original investment. So actually, you'd really say it's like 600% of what you originally had, because you would take that 2,250 times 6, and that would account for your gains plus your original invested. So I look at that and it's like, oh my gosh, sure, is 5xing $2,000? Is that going to change my life in one go around? No, it won't. But I look at that, and I was just, as I was going through all the data and looking at these deals, like, this isn't even a great month. It was very hard to find any of the tax sales that really had anything that'd be worth going to, except for this one and maybe like one other one. But when I look at that, I go, well, there is an opportunity to make, a very good return. And so it's like, I told Libby, I was like, okay, so let's just say with my job that I'm making, my commission, what if I just break even over there? And I never even, it's never able to really get ahead on that financially, but I just broke even. Like, would I be okay with that? And I thought, if it allowed me to have the bandwidth to still go do this, it's like, okay, I know that at the first year I'm gonna have about $3,000 to $4,000, and this is kind of a best case scenario right here. But if I can take that and I can, 5x my money, even if I could, let's just say 5x it, if I just started with $4,000, okay, and let's just say that I was able to 5x that 4 times. So let's just say that I did it on January, and then let's say that all those properties were sold by April, and then let's just say those were all, and then again, all sold by, and you got to remember, when I'm making a 500% or it's actually 600%. So I'm actually 6xing. So in this case, like a 500% would be if I took, $1,000 and I made $4,000 profit, plus I still have my original $1,000. So let's just say that, basically do this in January, buy everything. It sits on the market for 90 days, roughly, because 90 days is a pretty lengthy amount of time. Everything sells. So January, February, March, and then I go to another in April. And so I have April, May, June, and then I go to another in July, and then it sits on the market for July, August, September, and then I go to another one in October, and it sits October, November, and December, and it sells somewhere in those ranges. And so like that, let's just say I'm not building up any other savings. I'm not doing anything else. But let's just say I can get the 4,000 at the beginning of the year, and I multiply it by 5 times 5 times 5. That's wait, did I even do that enough times? So wait, so it's 4,000 times the first time 20,000, second time 100,000, third time 500,000, fourth time 2.5 million. Now I really don't think that that's a realistic number. I don't think, like, that's obviously almost like picture perfect. I don't think that's going to happen every time. But let's just say you're at 4,000, and let's just say I could double my money 4 times. So times 2, so that's 8,000, 16,000, 32,000, 64,000. That seems pretty reasonable. So it's like, okay, wait a minute. So, now when I'm thinking about my job, I'm like, okay, with $4,000, look at the increase that I can make in a single year if I'm very, very strategic. And don't think about this as like I turned 4,000 to 64,000. I turned 4,000 to 8,000, 8,000 into 16,000, 16,000 into, or what is that? So I went from 4 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 32, 32 to 64. I don't know if I maybe multiply it out to me. Oh, full 4 was, yeah, the first time. So anyways, I just shouldn't get my math wrong. Uh, and I'm still a little bit tired from last night, so please forgive me. But anyways, I look at that, and I guess where I'm trying to go with all of that thought process is, that job right now is just keeping me in the game. So that job is just going, okay, now I don't have to worry about keeping my lights on and keeping food on the table because of my job. But it is my responsibility to go out, and that's my active income. But my responsibility, where I'm really going to make the biggest bang for my buck, like I just showed you guys here, is that investment income. And I'll probably always even make more in investment income than I will passive income, right? From a percentage standpoint, because I'm actively involved in it. Like if I'm having passive income, then there's other people that are going to be doing the work and they're going to be taking a slice of the pie. In investment income, it's me doing the investing actively. I'm 100% involved. It's me trading my time and money for money. That's where I'm going to make the most money. So I need to get really strategic there. Now, with that being said, I've been really thinking about what my self-imposed deadline will be. That's something that Dave Ramsey talked about in his book EntreLeadership, and it's kind of stuck with me. And so there's two areas in life that I've been really thinking about, like, what is my self-imposed deadline? And one of those is working for Casey, and the other one is actually running the bot, because we're still trying to figure out what makes the bot work. And basically, when we first turned it on, it made a whole bunch of money. And then slowly from there, it's just lost all of the money they made. It's all paper. And, I'm kind of coming to this point now where it's like, at what point do you sit back and go, hey, that thing isn't working. It's no longer worth the time, energy, or effort. And I'm going to be honest with you guys, that's really painful because I've put over 2 years and probably over 100 grand in developing that thing. But at the end of the day, like just because you put a lot of time, energy, and effort into something doesn't mean it's worth holding on to. Like sometimes, you've got to find the point where you cut the rope and let it go, or it's going to become an anchor. Something that you originally thought, oh, that rope is connected to a sail that's going to pull me forward. Well, it turns out that sail has ripped off, fell in the water, and is now acting like a backwards, like a parachute in the water, and it's dragging the boat backwards instead of propelling it forwards. And so, at some point, I guess the question is, can that sail be salvaged, brought back up out of the water, and put back on the boat to continue to propel us forward? Or is that a sail that I just need to cut the rope and cut my losses and put up a new sail and just forget about it? Doesn't matter how much time, energy, effort, how beautiful you thought the sail could be. Like, doesn't matter at all. Doesn't matter if the other sail, your backup sail, is like butt ugly. Like at the end of the day, if it's taking you forward and the beautiful one is in the water dragging you back, then you got to take you got to be able to propel forward. And everybody's got to make that decision differently. And this has been a hard decision to think about for the bot specifically. But, and then I think about with Casey. And, one of the things that, I've been thinking about is I think there's still value in increasing your active income. And so I've been thinking about, like, when do I ask for more? And, really, when I think about it, something I heard, I don't even remember where I heard this, but money follows value. I can't remember who said that, where I heard that, but like it stuck with me. And so when you create value in the marketplace, money will come. If you chase money, typically you're not going to find it. But if you chase bringing value, you'll find like the money will just be there. And so I've really focused in all the things that I'm doing is just how do I bring value? How do I bring value? How do I bring value? And so right now for like in Casey's team, instead of going like, okay, I've been in the job for just a little bit, I'm going to go ask Casey for a raise. Like one of my thought processes right now is how do I bring more and more and more and more value? I want to bring value to the point where it's like, I'm teaching Sergio stuff. For example, the other guy that was working with us left. How can I help pick up a little bit of that slack? I'm not going to work myself into the ground. I have my parameters. Here's what I'm willing to do. Here's what I'm not willing to do. I think in bringing value, you also have to make sure that you stick up for yourself. You don't want somebody to think that they own you, right? They don't own me. I work for myself and I bring value to them and I'm bringing value to myself. And if at any point they start treating my employment like a commodity, I'll go find somebody else who sees the value in it. And so with that said, like even this past weekend, it was like, it was my birthday and I turned 25. and that was exciting. But one of the things that they talked about, or when it was like Friday and my birthday was on Saturday, and I got a call and they were like, "Hey, can you go walk that deal on Saturday?" And like when I first started, they were like, "You're not gonna have to go on the weekends. Like we're not gonna try to eat in your weekends. We're gonna try to eat in your evenings or your weekends." Like, and it made that very clear. That was like with my family, like, you know, I one of the things in my mission statement is that my family's always gonna feel like a constant top priority. Like I'm not willing to do that. I'm in a different phase in life than I was before, and I'm currently not in a phase where that's something I can do. And that was understood and we were good. Well, then on Friday, lo and behold, I'm getting a call like, "Hey, can you maybe try to see if you can squeeze them in?" And they didn't know the next day was my birthday. But I said, no. I said, "Look, that guy's still going to be there on Monday. And if he doesn't want to sell Monday, then he doesn't want to sell today. But if he does want to sell today, then he's going to be ready to sell Monday." And I went after that. I went on Monday. I closed the deal. It's going to be a really good deal. And I proved my value in that. I proved two things. So number one, that I have my values and I'm going to stick to it, my personal values. But number two, that I have value that I can bring to the team. And I looked at that deal and I knew that it was not urgent. I knew that guy was locked in. I know that because of past real estate experience. And that's just me. I made mistakes and I stumbled in the past to gain perspective and experience with that. To now, I know how to read people in that specific regard, and a little bit better. There's people who probably can read people way better than I can. But yeah, and so then the other guy that Casey brought on at the same time as me, he decided that the work wasn't for him. And so now I'm kind of in this really unique spot where it's like, okay, I'm like basically the main sales guy, outside of the guy who works over me, but he kind of organizes the leads and does sales. And so he's kind of like trying to juggle it all. And so it's like, how do I become like inexpendable? And if I can spend the next few months basically becoming inexpendable, like I want, like when the words out of Casey's mouth come out that it's like, "Dude, you're a rock star," or "Dude, you're killing this," or like, "Man, I don't know what we do without you." Like when something along those lines comes out in a conversation, whether it's like I hear it through the grapevine or I hear it directly from them, that's when I'll know I'm expendable and I can now go into the office and say, "Hey, look," especially if I can get the tax sales up and going and I have my own income coming in. And then it's like, okay, at that point, it's like I can go in and say, "Hey, I'm making money with the tax sales. I'm not getting paid enough here." And maybe this is like in the spring, maybe this is a couple months away, but it's like I'm not. This is no longer meeting my goals. It never really was from the first place. But the first place was really more of just how do I get stable. And so in that regard, it does, it gives me that stability. But I am going to hit a point where it's like, okay, now I'm looking for growth. And this isn't giving me growth, it's just giving me stability. So I either am going to have to back off, my workload here so I can focus more on my investment income, or I'm going to have to make active income that outpaces what I make on my investment income. And then just very clearly saying, here's what I make on my investment income. So I'm going to need to, bump up my commission by 2 3 4 times. Instead of 5%, I'm going to need to make 10 15 20%, whatever that number comes out to be. But at that point, I'm hoping that I've been doing this for so long and I'm one of like the main sales guys, and he sees that like my close rate is better than anybody else's is. And basically, like, if he loses me, the tap to his business turns off. Nobody wants the tap to the business to turn off. And so at the end of the day, that's right now, if I went in and asked, they'd be like, "No." And it would probably cause a little bit of startling, like, why is he already asking, for a raise? And like, maybe I should look for somebody else. But if I wait for months till it's like, I don't know what I would do without Kendall. And then at that point, I go, okay, I'm in a good position where I could step away more if I needed to be able to grow my investments, or I could continue at the same pace with you guys and keep your business churning and burning, but you're going to have to pay me more. But I have to also be bold enough, that if he tries to call a bluff, like that, I'm not bluffing. And I would really go, okay, I'm going to cut my hours in half. I'm going to cut my deals in half. I'm going to focus on my investment income. And that's okay. Because then at that point might be when he comes back and goes, "You know what? Hey, we actually do need you. Like, I'll kick it up, whatever. But you've got to be, prepared to put your money where your mouth is." So I've been thinking about that a lot. And so for me, I really started, I started, and Nathan and I did a couple things before I started working for Casey. And that was in middle of May. That's also when we turned the bot on, was at the end of May. And so for me, I'm looking at, okay, basically the end of May of 2024, which currently it's October, almost the end of October 2023. So that gives me, what is that, 7 months or so? Basically I've got 7 months that I'm just going to be able to stay steady. I'm going to spend the first, 5 months of the year from January to May working on the tax sales, building up my income there. Um, and then basically at that point, that's my self-imposed deadline I'm looking at is about like end of May, beginning of June. But for me, that is two things. Number one, I'm not gonna. It's a goal, a date in my mind. I'm not gonna change anything about what I'm doing. I'm not gonna go ask for a raise. I'm not gonna go quit Casey's deal. I'm not gonna shut down the bot. Like, we're gonna keep everything running the way it is. I'm not gonna rock the boat for 7 months, because that's what I've set in my mind. Unless something comes up that it's like, okay, something has to change. But at that point, I really have to reevaluate a lot of stuff. But it's not going to be just like a decision that's made in a couple hours or even a day or probably even a week. Like, it would have to be like weeks of mulling and going, yeah, something has to change. And so that's what I'm looking at, like early June. And so end of May, early June, like that's when I'm going to make my move. I'm either going to increase my commissions, or I'm going to increase my focus on my own investments, or maybe both. Who knows? We'll see. But until that point, I've got to stay steady, which has been really hard because I'm already, wanting to look at cars and trucks. And so it's like, I just have to stop. I have to stop dreaming about the future, and I just have to live in today right now. And so when I'm looking at working for goals, like I said, I went through the tax sale stuff with Nathan Mills, which is really good. Got all the, here's like the websites, and here's how you can break down the data, and here's what's important, here's what's not important. And the nice thing is because I've done some land, it wasn't too complicated to figure out. But there were a couple pieces that was like, oh, okay, that was good to note that and notate this. And so as I figure out the system better and better, I will start bringing you guys behind the scenes on exactly how I'm doing it. I don't want to bring you guys in prematurely. But I can bring you onto the scenes on that. I really listened to Libby too, because like I looked at this, I'm gonna be honest, and I was like, man, what if like Nathan Mills like didn't go to, like, let's just say this month he didn't go to a tax sale because he's like, none of them are great. Like, even this one's not great. And he was like, it's just not really worth it for me to go. I was like, I'm still going to go to a tax sale. Like, and at first I was like, even if I don't participate, like, I just want to go. I want to be in the atmosphere. I just want to see what it's all about. I just want to feel what the presence in the room feels like. Like, I don't want the first time I go to a tax sale to be the first time I try to invest. I want to feel comfortable with the environment. And so, but then I started thinking like, well, but what if I just, like, in this case, like, what if I just pull out like $1,000? And and our debt's not paid off yet. Our debt's paid off at the end of the year. We're tracking really well, but it'll be paid off, in December. It'll be done, so we got 2 more months. But I really had this thought of like, what if I took $1,000 and I could, turn that into what if I could turn that into quite a bit more? Like, what if I just bought one of these? Like, for example, there's one of these, starting bid is $450. The estimated maximum bid is $750. Resale value is like $5,000. There's another one, the minimum bid's $200. My maximum bid would be $1,400, and the resale value on it is about $7,000. So it's like, and it might sound crazy to you that it's like, why would you not take $1,000 with you? If you've got it, just, hey, don't pay as much debt off this month and go do that. But I learned through this game, actually, right, that I'm going to talk about here in just a minute, the importance of that. But also, it's one of my goals. One of my goals is to pay off the debt, and I have to see each goal through at each moment. And I put myself in debt because of bad choices. The only reason that I have $6,000 owed on a used car that we had to buy is because when I made a bunch of money with Aaron and Carson, I blew through all that money, and then pretty much at the end, Libby's van just died, and we had to buy another one. We actually had to borrow $6,000 from my parents. So I went from having over $100,000 in the bank account to less than a year later having nothing in the bank account, and I had to borrow money from my parents just to buy a van. So, I can't. It's the same. If I went and I took $1,000 to tax, so I'd be doing the same thought process. I have to do things differently. I have to get out of debt, and then I have to make wise decisions going forward. Also, when I brought this up with Libby, she was really hesitant about the idea. She was like, "Wait a minute, I thought we were getting out of debt," and I just realized like I have to give my goals, my ideas, and my family stability. And a part of that stability is just going, "Hey, I'm gonna have to wait a while until I finish taking care of these responsibilities over here to free up the cash to be able to invest." Because like basically, if we pull anything out of savings and at the same time we hold debt, if anything comes up in life, life blows up in our face because we have no money. And what if this thing takes, 90, 120 days to sell? What if there's something weird about it? What if like, hey, there was like $1,000 in liens that I didn't know about on that property, and it ends up costing me like extra money, and I have like no way to be able to afford that. Like, there's so many things that could go wrong if you don't have any sort of safety net. And so she was right. I need to have a safety net. I need to stick to my goals, and I'm going to do that. And so this is me committing out to you guys and myself and Libby, and really trying to listen to the wisdom of my helper that the Lord gave me in my life. But I am still going to go to one and show up and be in the atmosphere. I'm just not going to take any cash with me. So, and I may even record a behind the scenes video of that to upload, which I think would be kind of cool. So, yeah, yesterday it was funny because I was just sitting there and I was like, man, like I just need some perspective. I need some fresh insight and perspective. And so, for me, it's like there's kind of two places that I go for like insight, wisdom, and perspective. Number one, if it's just about life, I'm gonna go like, Sunday mornings are great for the preaching, or I'll throw like when I'm riding in the car about 8:30. There's a program that comes on in the morning. I'll listen to that sermon, and that's been really good. Sometimes I'll listen to Tony Evans stuff. He's got some awesome content out there just for like general life wisdom and perspective, and like seeking the Lord. Also the Bible time, digging into the Word, all that stuff. But then like in this case, it's like I just really need some financial perspective. And so I looked up Dave Ramsey at first, because he's obviously got his school of thought that's very different from a lot of people. And I watched one of his videos on YouTube, where I just kind of listened to it in the background while I just sat there. And then after that, I went to a Robert Kiyosaki video, and he's the one where I've got the sticker on my bottle from his book. And it's one of the next books somewhere in the series. I want to read the Rich Dad Poor Dad book again. I want to read Think and Grow Rich. I have that book, but I want to read that again. And then there's just a couple other. I mean, there's a couple books that like I really want to get through, but I think the stock market book will be the immediate next one after Good to Great. But yeah. So, anyways, in this video, Robert Kiyosaki had a lot of really good things to say. One of the things he talked about, he said like something about his game, like something about the cash flow game, and like he referenced it so many times. Like, is this a thing? Like an actual game that Robert Kiyosaki has made? And so I looked it up, and sure enough, it is. So you guys should look this up. It's the Rich Dad Cash Flow. I think it's just Rich Dad Cash Flow is like what I Googled. I think it's just the cash flow game. And it's crazy. So they have like an online version that's free. I'm about to order the board game. The board game is like $110 I'm getting the 101 and the 202 version off Amazon, which they don't really sell the 202 version anymore. But there's some people who have it used, and so I'm going to get all that together, and it actually comes in DVD format. So I'm going to burn those DVDs so I can like watch whatever content comes with the games. But it's like a board game, and it's like Monopoly, but it's like a hyper realistic version of Monopoly, I guess you could say, where you're more playing against yourself and your own portfolio and the general market conditions that is created within the game, rather than like the other players around you in Monopoly. I don't even know how to explain it. It's so good. So I played the online game, which is like kind of like a dulled down version of the normal board game. And it was really good. And I learned, I just more of like reemphasize things. But one of the things that I got out of it more than anything was that this game is like a lifetime of investing in 2 hours. And so you can see how you play the game. Do you want to purchase a bunch of, liabilities? You want to buy an expensive car, an expensive boat, an expensive house, and be just drowning in debt right out of the gate? Or do you want to work on, because like when you start, you have a couple liabilities. I think you have like a house loan and a car loan, and you have some credit card debts, and you just have like kind of like where you would start usually with like the Dave Ramsey. Like if you're starting on the Dave Ramsey steps at baby step one, paying everything off, that's where you start the game out. And so for me, like Robert Kiyosaki plays one way, but I really play like the first part of my game. There's kind of like two halves to the game. The first half of the game, I play by the Dave Ramsey method. And, that's getting out of debt, using my income to pay off my debt. The only time that and this isn't really Dave Ramsey, but the only time that I'm buying investments were actually, it was when I was buying like cheap stocks. Um, or in this case, that might mirror like these cheap land sales, but guarantees. And so like there will be times in there where he, for example, says like, hey, such and such stock typically trades between like $10 and $30. But there's just been this huge panic in the market. The shares are currently trading for $1 a piece. And so it's like, okay, I'm going to take like at least 20 to 30% of whatever I have in savings because I know it's just a stupid low price. And I understand the fundamentals of that company. I'm going to buy that until the price goes up. And so like later on, you might draw another card that says like, hey, such and such company, like the shares are now trading at $30 a share. Well, I just 30x my money and then I can go exit that position. But there's like multiple stocks. There's lots of different real estate stuff. And anyways, all of those kinds of things. It's a really cool board game. So I'm planning to get the board game here soon, and I'm going to play the board game, and then I will probably even do a review on the board game. I may even like do a recording of me doing like a whole round of the board game. Might be kind of neat. But I think it's just from what I've gathered from it so far, it's a really cool tool and resource. But it just came from last night, me going, I need some more insight and wisdom. I listened to a Dave Ramsey, video. Then I listened to a Robert Kiyosaki video who's talking about this. And so like, instead of just going and watching TV and watching, I don't know, some random TV show that isn't going to add any value to my life, I went and listened to these guys. I found a cool board game that is educational and entertaining at the same time. I played it on my computer, just their free, kind of mini version. And I was already like, this thing is awesome. I'm going to get this game so I can play this whenever I'm just sitting around and bored. But it's going to teach me something. It's going to educate me like in how to do like the investing thing of life well. And more of anything, just affirming. So like if I'm like, man, I want to jump the gun and start investing now, even though I have debt. Well, in that game, you have life expenses that come up. And so like if I were to start in the game, start investing, but then life expenses come up and I haven't paid off my debts, well, then all of a sudden I have to go into more debt to service the expenses and the debt that I currently have. And it's just going to start sinking me deeper and deeper until I end up having to sell off these small investments that really aren't, they're going to end up having to be sold at a loss because of the financial position that I put myself in, and the whole game goes down. But see, I get to learn that instead of like having these bad behaviors in life over 10, 5, 10, 20 years. And then I look back and go like, wow, that was like really just detrimental financial planning from my perspective. I get to do that in like an hour and a half. And I get to go, okay, that's not the life that I want to live. Let me try to start the game over and play this game in a different way from a different perspective. And let's see how that outcome works out. And so that way, if I'm ever like, man, I want to jump the gun, I want to jump the gun. I want to, be ahead of where I'm at and try to take, those unbalanced leaps instead of those strong steps, like as a part of my mission statement. I can go play that in the game and go, what happens if I do take those unbalanced leaps? And then if I get burned by the market, it's like, okay, I got to learn that lesson an hour and a half for free versus spending 5 years of my life repeating the same mistakes over and over and over. But really then also just affirming for my brain, this is what, like this path is success, this path is failure. This path is success, this path is failure. And so I'm hoping that then eventually one day I'll hit a point where it's like when I come to decisions, I don't even have to think about it. I can just immediately recognize, because of what I've done in life and maybe the board game, whatever else I've done to that point, but I can just recognize like that's success, that's failure. That will lead to success, that will lead to failure. That company is way undervalued and I'm getting a great deal on it. That company is overvalued, it's time to sell, not time to buy. That piece of real estate, that's a really hot market and that house is, cheap, I'll buy that. That's a really, hot market right now in real estate, but that house is overpriced, not time to buy. Like that's not time to start investing when the market's hot and the prices are expensive. Find a cheap house in a hot market, that's awesome. Find a cheap house in a cold market, you don't want to be stuck paying a mortgage that you can't find a renter for, or you can't flip the house. So that sucks too. So like there's just that balance. And then also, I realized that as I was playing the game, and I've heard people talk about like how you evaluate companies and stocks and stuff to like figure out like if it's a good price or not a good price. And I realized like in the game when I was playing, I was like, wow, valuating these stocks is just like valuating real estate, where I can literally go here and like I ran comps, and it's like I can see here, for example, on this one tax sale, okay, minimum bid's 200. Just like in stocks, I can say like, let's say there's, Amazon is selling for $100. I don't know if it really is, but let's say it's selling for like $100 a share. I could go in there and say like, hey, I want to buy one for $70 a share. And if somebody's willing to sell at 70 a share, then they can sell it to me, but they'd be selling at a huge discount. Most of the time they won't. Most of the time they'll sell it whatever the price, of the market is currently trading at. And so that minimum bid might be where it starts, but it's going to climb up. And I have to be able to determine, what do I truly feel like that piece of real estate's worth? So in that case, like that one's worth $7,000. And the most that I'm willing to pay is $1,400, because I want to see a really strong return on my money. And I also want to have kind of a gap in there of insurance, almost you could say, in case there's any sort of like other liens or HOA fees or anything in there that I didn't know about that property, which I'm not going to be buying that property because I committed to that. But in that case, I need to have, insurance. And so, it's the same way with stocks though. Like, I just had this like light bulb moment of like, wow, you can look at like the company's financials, and you can basically off of that, you can see if their stock is overpriced or underpriced. I've heard of it before, but playing the game made it just very black and white, and go like, okay, that's the next one of the next strong steps that I want to take is learning and teaching myself how to value stocks. And probably what I'll do is just, again, paper trade, where I'll literally just look for stocks, and I'll go, okay, based off of what I've learned about this company and these different fundamentals, I would buy this stock, or I would sell that stock because I think it's overpriced. I would buy it because I think it's underpriced. And then, basically from there, you just hold on to it until it gets to where you think it should be. And then you can sell or buy whatever side of the transaction you're on. So anyways, that's kind of it for this week. Lots of real life going on. I'm struggling with my job, struggling to just stay content and settled in what I'm doing. But now I've got a goal in mind. Now I know it's end of May, beginning of June. Like that's where I'm looking forward to. And so between here and there, as long as I can just break even on, my draw for my commission, I'm doing awesome. I'm covering my bills. I'm also going to be furthering my education on the tax sales and furthering my education on the stocks, because those are two things that I can afford right now with a small amount of capital. And then as my capital increases, I can purchase more stocks. The cool thing about stocks is it's a very scalable thing because there's so much volume in the market. With real estate, it's going to be doing more volume to a point, and then it's going to hit a point where it has to be bigger deals to be able to consume all that capital. But yeah, I'm really excited about what I've learned this last week in being still, and I'm really excited that I didn't make any rash decisions this last week in being still, but I just I really took days to mull on different things instead of making knee-jerk reaction decisions in situations. And I think I can see how it's already bringing me ahead, and I can see how even just the stability of me going, hey, like there's really good deals at the tax sale, but agreeing with Libby on saying like, hey, our goal was pay off our debt before we start investing in tax sales. I'm going to stick to that goal. That brought a lot of stability to my marriage and the home, because Libby now is like, wow, like he's going to stick to what he said. Like in that regard, I'm not going to jump the gun. Like it builds that trust. So lots of cool things, lots of things that I'm excited for. But I will keep you guys updated whenever I get the cash flow game, and I'll make sure that I do like some sort of playthrough, or kind of like a report on it, kind of like a book report, but it's not obviously a book. And I'm going to keep you guys updated on how the good to great goes. I'm hoping to be finished that up here in like the next week or two, because I really want to be doing a book a month. It took me a while to get the book report out for Entre Leadership. I'm going to do it much more efficiently with good to great. And then after good to great, I have this little book, and it's a stock market book that I think I'm going to get into next, because I'm getting kind of excited about, okay, I got this small evaluating thing over here with real estate, but I want to learn how to evaluate the cheaper stocks on the stock market side too, and all of that. So I'm going to keep you guys updated. That's kind of it for this week's episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. And I actually want to, I think you're gonna be able to see this. I want you guys to see what my screensaver is. And excuse the mess on the desk. I'm not sure if you're gonna see the mess on the desk when I rotate my computer around here. I want you to be able to see my monitor. You see that? It might be backwards is the problem. I think that is probably backwards on the way that you can see it. But I'll just tell you what it says. It says, I explore the unknown. I conquer new frontiers. My journey is powerful, and my wake is a wealthy legacy. And that is the Wealthy Legacy mantra, motto. I don't know exactly what that would be, the statement, the manifesto. I don't know. That's what we're doing right here. We're exploring the unknown. We're conquering new frontiers. We just have to remember that our journey is powerful and our wake needs to be a wealthy legacy journey. So whether you've never done real estate before, you've never done stocks, you've never done either, or maybe you've done them and you haven't done well in the past. Like if you've done them, and you haven't done well, you got to learn something. Like you're further ahead than somebody who has never done real estate. If you've never done real estate, you have an awesome opportunity in front of you to learn. If you've done stocks, but you've never done real estate, you've got something stable, but you can learn the other side of the coin. And same if you've done real estate, but you have never done stocks. And so this is just, I guess, my challenge to you in, putting on this identity of, being a wealthy legacy journeyer with me is go out there and figure out how to explore the unknown, how to conquer those new frontiers, and remember the power of your journey and remember the wake that you're trying to leave behind for your family, for the people around you, how you're going to impact, the world and what's really going to be remembered about you whenever it's all said and done. So with that said, it's been great having you guys here at this week's episode of the Wealthy Legacy Journey. Thank you for stopping by. And as I say every week, this episode is really for you guys. And I'm excited to share my stuff and get held accountable through these videos and stuff like that. But more than anything, I close always saying this, and it's because I truly, truly mean it. But I put these together for you. So again, here's to you and your own personal wealthy legacy journey. I'll see you guys next week.